show. I saw Jared Leto. I thought he was Jesus cause his hair was so long. I knew I was wrong about 10 seconds later when I heard about him hitting the bong. Childhood was long and tough, school was rough, and one day I had enough. Got my dad's gun, shut the shithole up. Saw cops, I ran, they shot, I ducked. Climbed up onto the school roof through a vent duct. Leaked out, only lost one tooth. Couple of grazes on my elbows was all. To be honest, it wasn't that big a foe. I was cuffed, sent in the back of the truck. The schmuck up front in the cab gave me a sandwich he had. He said, eat up boy, I know you're hungry. I know those bullies probably called you ugly. You'd most likely try to hurry through the holes, avoid the bathroom stalls cause most things in there got ugly. I hope you get a good recovery in whatever facility you end up in. I hope you get rehabilitated like I did. See, I was once in your shoes, only I didn't shoot up no school. I cut myself with my dad's tools and squeezed the wounds. Never let them heal, eventually I couldn't feel him. That wasn't enough no more, so I stole a car. And behind the wheel, I smoked a cigar. But when I left, I forgot my crowbar. And using DNA, the cops came to my house about 5 to 9 one Friday night. They carried me off, I tried to kick and bite. Last sight I saw before I was in the back was my mama cry, she didn't need that. Dad had just died, I served 2 years in jail. I failed my family, I rapidly fell into a deep depression. By the first night I'd learnt my lesson. My obsession with aggression was suppressed. I was rebuilt for the best. All my inner demons were lifted from my chest. I had so much time just with myself to make peace. And I ceased to be obese, cause all that I could eat was plain porridge and some oranges. If you had a sore throat there were no lozenges. I was taught to toughen up and stop being a sook. Instead of cutting myself I would read a book. I'm sure by your first look at me you thought I would be a clean record, clean history, cop driving this transport van. But what I'm teaching you man is that no matter your past you can do what you can, so make a plan. Now you'll be most likely out by 20. Because of your age your punishment won't be as heavy. Please boy, don't end your future. I hope I could be a good tutor about why even though you're a school shooter you can change for the better. By the way, when you get in the cell expect a letter. I wouldn't be able to stand watching a growing man destroy his life, and there's a chance I can stop it. Whatever you want from this world you got a chance to get it, but it won't be long before you're tall and strong. Help the world the way I'm helping you with this song. I looked up at him and I began to cry. If there wasn't a roof I'd look up to the sky. I remember my first day in the cell. I could tell this prison would be hell. The smell as well, it was like urine. My cellmate got shanked one day. The surgeon said there was no way he could possibly operate. His heart had been punctured in 6 spots. Next week it was 6 o'clock when they buried his dead corpse in a box. Nobody cared for the loss, it barely crossed no one's mind except mine. Cause even though I didn't even know the guy, it was still a loss of life on the inside. It played through my mind, what if that was me? I had to find a way to survive. I started working out 200 push-ups a day. Only motivation was the view of the bay and the hope of being out there someday. Before long I was 240 pounds. Everywhere I went I shook the ground and people shut their mouths. Nobody messed with me cause they were intimidated by my unique physique. Only 8 more weeks until I could sit by a creek and take a private leak. I hadn't got it in no fights, I was given a good impression. Wasn't messing with no guards, I worked out in the prison yard. Challenged my mind, I played some cards. Stopped cutting myself with shards of glass. My review I passed, I walked out to the grass. Breathing the air, I was there, free at last. But then I saw reporters come at me fast in a mass. They harassed me with questions for the newscast that they would telecast at 5:30. I wanted to go home, wanted to be alone. The camera sticking up in my face brought me back to a younger me with a Mac packed in my backpack at that place where I killed all those kids. I started to panic, I dashed off into oncoming traffic. The cars they crashed, people's heads were smashed and mashed. But one car hit me and I was thrashed onto the side of the road in pain alone in the blistering cold. The newspaper filmed and left. The cops came and they cleaned up the message. You can probably guess they put me in what they called the best institution, operating on volunteer contribution. Still challenged my mind I guess, but instead of playing cards I was playing chess. Therapies involved electrocution, like that was a solution. Food was gross, there was water pollution. Prisoners there were clueless, retarded and ruthless, disregarded and useless. They walked around shoeless and their mouths were toothless. I started therapy on trying to fix my brain, to try to deal with the pain, at least find peace with the deceased. I was responsible for killing, I was the villain still in the institution and willingly hated by millions. No way I could be forgiven for what I'd done, but I had to forgive myself even if I was the only one. Erase the memories of firing that gun, leave none, get back in society and be someone. By a month my progress had begun. In front more obstacles were still to come. Eventually my transformation was done. They set me back on the streets, only problem was I had nothing to eat. I used new papers to preserve some heat. Stayed up late because I could not sleep. Lost a ton of weight, there was no meat on my bones. My nose turned black and rotted. All I could say would groans, I was choking on vomit. I was forgotten, not in any way the way they said I would be. I was not a functioning member of society. My organs were failing in the distance, sirens were wailing. They couldn't save me, they had to bury me. It was the same cemetery my cellmate was buried in. And I never got a single letter from the man I thought made my life better. He must have forgotten about what he said to me. Guess I wasn't really a frightened boy and needed guidance. Now I'll run away in silence after a life of violence. I should've just blew my brains out in school, just ended my life of pain and not get used like a tool. You probably have one of two ways of viewing this. It's either a tragic story or it's just bullshit.